Which leads me to what I think is happening. I think what's going on is that Harley's, the new CEO Zeit's Rewire plan, I feel it's a plan to, in the short term, get Harley bought out by someone else. And I'll tell you why I think that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moto Mengy channel. It's been a long time since I've talked about a Harley Davidson. My Harley video was a few months ago now, the one I did about Harley being in trouble and what they can do to change. Now, a lot's happened with Harley Davidson since then. So I thought for this Goldwing motovlog, I'd give it an update on what Harley's done and why I'm a tad concerned about where they're going. So in the past month or so, Harley's made quite a few announcements and moves and changes concerning their future. Harley has a new CEO, Johann Zeitz, I think is how you say his name. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but it's something like that. And he has a new plan for Harley Davidson he calls the Rewire. Now, we don't know all the details yet for this Rewire plan, but we know some of the details. So far, what we know is this. It sounds like Harley is going to stick with their core, their main market, cruisers and touring bikes. Now, the market for cruisers and touring bikes has been going down year over year. Not just for Harley, but for everyone. That's why it has particularly hit Harley hard. So sticking to what has worked for them in the past might not be a great decision. Oh, I'm going to get through this intersection. Also, we know that Harley is going to be laying off 700 employees in the very near future. That's a lot of people to be laying off from a company like Harley Davidson. So they're downsizing. They're pulling back, they're retreating a bit. Which I guess is good for the books in the short term. You know, it'll cut costs, which I guess is what they're after. But it also cuts growth potential for the future too. So laying off like that is a short-term solution to increase share price, but it's not a very good long-term solution for improving the company. Also, in addition to that, the new CEO Zeitz has personally been buying a lot of shares of Harley Davidson. Also, the company has taken out some more loans, going into more debt to buy back shares of the company as well. And it sounds like some other board members of Harley Davidson have also been buying shares. Now, one reason for that is to decrease share dilution in the stock portfolio. That has the short-term result of increasing share price. So of improving, you know, of helping out the investors more or less. But it doesn't do much long-term for the company because they're going into more debt just to increase shares. Another thing that's happened is Harley has been dropped from the S&P 500 index. They posted too many quarters in a row of losses or declining revenue that they no longer qualify for the S&P 500. So they've been kicked from that. Now, that may be a big reason why Zeitz and the board have been buying back stock shares that might be an effort to counteract being dropped from the S&P 500. So far, a lot of the Rewire plan seems to be designed towards increasing the share price and the valuation of the company rather than increasing value for the customers. So it's a good short-term plan so far, but not a very good long-term plan. One possibility is Zeitz just wants to get the company on a good footing again, you know, get expenses reined in, cut costs. But what they really need to do in order to increase sales is they need to improve the value they're offering to the customers. That's one of the big problems with Harley right now. You know, their bikes are too expensive for what you get compared to other brands in the motorcycle industry. And speaking of expensive Harley Davidsons, that leads us to the newest revelation about Harley, is that they would like to sell more bikes at higher prices, meaning higher margins, at higher than MSRP costs. And they're hoping that the lower inventory will result in higher demand because there are less bikes to go around, which will raise prices on Harley Davidson cycles being sold, which will make the motor company more money, more profit, greater profit margins in the short term. Now that might sound crazy to you, that Harley wants to sell their bikes at higher prices than they are today. But that's what their plan is right now. That's part of the Rewire plan. Now, one of the number one complaints about Harley Davidson from pretty much everyone is that the bikes are just too expensive, that the prices are too high for what you get, and that prices need to come down on Harley bikes. But no, Harley Davidson wants to raise prices in the short term. Which again, is a move designed to make the books look better in the short term, to increase revenue and profit margins, to potentially raise the share price in the short term. But it's not a good long-term plan, because in the long term, a move like that will only push more potential Harley customers away, and will only push more current loyal Harley customers away because they don't want to pay even more for a new bike than they would now, because a lot of even the Harley loyalists don't want to pay to Harley's prices today. They think they're too expensive. So raising said prices isn't going to sell more bikes. Well, that's Harley's plan. They want to sell less bikes for more money, even if it costs them customers in the short term. Now, all these moves seem geared towards raising share price rather than customer value. And if you're thinking that, you're right. That's exactly what they seem to be doing. Which leads me to what I think is happening. I think what's going on, just my gut feeling, is that Harley's, the new CEO Zeitz Rewire plan, I feel it's a plan to, in the short term, get Harley bought out by someone else. And I'll tell you why I think that. So far, it seems like their biggest desire is to raise the share price, to increase the stock value. In a company buyout, that would mean they're trying to get more value for their shares from whoever would buy the company. I've been a part of a stock buyout, of a corporate America buyout before, for a company I worked for. When a buyout like that happens, the management team, who all have a lot of shares of the company, get paid in their share value. You know, they have to sell their shares as part of the buyout. So raising share value in the short term, leading up to a corporate buyout, is super, super, super profitable for people like CEOs and board members who have lots of shares of the company. So that's one reason why I think all these moves to raise the share price might be hinting at a corporate buyout in the near future for Harley. But another reason is, look at Indian, for example, and what they've done lately. A few years ago, Polaris bought Indian. Polaris is a larger company with deeper pockets, with a lot more capital to invest in R&D, innovation and improvements in order to increase value to the customers. Harley right now is in such bad shape with such debt on their shoulders that they really can't afford to be putting lots of money into expensive R&D. Now they've been doing it, you know, with the Pan America, the Livewire, the Bronx. They have a new motor coming out, the Revolution motor, that's water cooled. So Harley has spending on R&D, but if their current plan now is to go back to what they're good at, back to what sells them bikes, back to cruisers and touring motorcycles, well then it sounds a bit like they're giving up to a degree on R&D. Now when Polaris bought Indian, you know, Indian bikes got better suddenly due to the influx of capital and the larger company having deeper pockets. So if Harley is in trouble financially and they can't afford to invest to catch up with all the other brands out today who are making more modern bikes, if Harley can't afford to catch up to Indian, maybe the Rewire's short-term goal here is to get the company bought by someone larger who has deeper pockets, who can afford to spend on R&D, who can put money into Harley Davidson to improve their motorcycles, to modernize them, so on and so forth. In such a situation, the board's and the CEO's plan would be to increase the share price to get them more money from the buyout, because any buyout would probably replace the board, would likely replace the CEO. So they aren't thinking long term for the company at all, because they don't care. They're going to get their money, their big fat paychecks on the way out, and move on to the next CEO corporate America position. And whoever buys Harley would take over the reins and inherit all those problems on their own. So yeah, my hunch is Harley's looking to get bought out by someone bigger. So far, from what the Rewire plan has been announced, what they revealed, from all the moves Harley's made, that's just my gut feeling on what they're doing. Now, would Harley getting bought out be a good thing or a bad thing? I honestly don't know. Maybe a bit of both. Harley having some more money to invest in innovation and R&D certainly wouldn't hurt them. I mean, that would be a good thing. But then again, Harley getting bought out by someone could change the entire nature of Harley Davidson itself. For example, if Harley got bought by Ford or Chrysler, you know, that might not be too bad, an American company buying them. But say Harley got bought by a Chinese company, which could very well happen. Chinese companies buy American companies all the time. With a brand as big as Harley, with as much value as Harley Davidson, a lot of Chinese investors with deep pockets who would love to own such a brand. And if the Harley board truly is looking to sell the company, if that's what their plan is, then they might not honestly care who buys Harley Davidson. As long as they get their paycheck on the way out, as long as they get their shares inflated and bought by the buyout company, as long as they get their golden parachute, they're happy. If you rode Harleys back in the 80s, you remember the AMF years. My first Harley was a 76 Sportster. That was an AMF bike. No one wants the AMF years to return to Harley Davidson. And Harley getting bought out by a bigger company could very well send them backwards again. But we don't know. None of us know. Time will tell. So that's my hunch, that Harley's shopping to get bought out by a bigger company, and that their short-term plan here is to increase share value in order to get a bigger golden parachute for the board members during the buyout. That's my hunch. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Time will tell, I guess. So leave your comments down below as to what you think Harley's doing with the whole Rewire plan. Tell me whether or not you think I'm crazy. If you think a buyout is stupid or not gonna happen. Or if you think I might be right, that they might be trying to get the company bought out by someone bigger. Comment down below. Hit the like if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ride safe. Take care. Let's all pray for Harley Davidson. And see you next time.